call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Paul Lebosnoyani takes on Phil Rowe this Saturday at UFC Fight Night Houston, Texas. And Lebosnoyani was supposed to be taking on Austin Vanderford, who had to pull out of this fight. And so now Phil Rowe is taking this fight on short notice, which just doesn't make sense to me. Somebody like Phil Rowe, who's 1-3 in his last 4 fights, getting up there in age, 35 years old, not having the most success, you would think that he'd be wanting full camps. Would want to be going into his next fight fully prepared. His job could be on the line. Losing another fight at 35 years old could get you kicked out of the UFC. And so it just doesn't make sense taking on a young, hungry guy like Paul Lebosnoyani, who's had the full camp, who's on a 4-fight winning streak, a lot of momentum heading into this fight, only 27 years old, not even into his prime yet. Just doesn't make sense why he would take this fight. Just because I think the Lebosnoyani's the better fighter. I think he's got more in the toolbox, and I think that he gets this one done. I like his stand-up. The few fights that I have seen, he's got some crispy combinations. He has some power, has some sneaky uppercuts, some sneaky timing, good high kicks. He was landing some really good strikes on Keegan Ginrich, dropped him. They were kind of trading submissions and scrambles on the ground, and then eventually Lebosnoyani got him with a triangle choke. And Keegan Ginrich was 9-3 at the time. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he was able to get a pretty nasty triangle choke after putting a lot of damage on him too, and then followed that up with a 68-second knockout over Jack Congdon on Dana White's Contender Series back in September. So he's got a lot of finishing potential wherever the fight goes. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. I liked his the open guard game, the open guard attacks, the rolling for legs that I've seen on the regional scene outside of the UFC. So I think he's definitely going to be the better grappler than Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe has struggled in the grappling department in the past. Sukhyun Ko just beat him. Angelusa was able to get him down 3 times. Sukhyun Ko got him down 4 times. Jake Matthews got him down. Jason Witt got him down 4 times. So Phil Rowe was a prospect at one point. He was on a 3-fight KO streak against Orion Kashi, maybe, Jason Witt, Nico Price, but then, losing to Neil Magny, Jake Matthews, beats Angelusa in the fight that he was losing before he got the TKO in round 3, and then lost to Sukhyun Ko. So I'm going to go with Paul Lebosnoyani. He's got a couple losses on the regional scene, but one of them was to Spike Carlisle, who's pretty good. He lost that fight back in 2019 and then had a referee stoppage to Jacoby Jones in the LFA back in May of 2023. But again, since then, been on a 4-fight winning streak, including beating a 7-1 guy in Jack Congdon on Dana White's Contender Series. And going into this one, I just feel like he's got more tools. He's going to be at a reach disadvantage. He's only 5'11 with a 72-inch reach. Phil Rowe is 6'3 with an 80.5-inch reach. I just haven't really seen Phil Rowe be able to utilize the reach like he should, to keep guys off of him, to maintain his range, and to win fights that way. And I've seen Lebosnoyani, he's fought guys with that type of range before. He did beat Victor Koeks, who was just kind of this monstrous dude out of the Netherlands. He was 6'3", 75-inch reach, and he was able to get a decision over him. So this isn't a body style and a frame that he hasn't seen before. And he's got tons of momentum. He's young. He's going to be making the rapid improvements, whereas Phil Rowe, 35 years old at this point, I feel like when I see guys like him who are on kind of a 50-50 run as of late, more losses than wins over the last 3 years, getting up there in age, 35 years old, taking short notice fights when they shouldn't. I feel like it's just kind of a last-ditch effort at cash grabs, honestly. And maybe he thinks that the opponent change, the switch up for a guy making his UFC debut, maybe he's in camp, maybe he was training for a fight. I don't think that he was. Last I checked, his last fight was in November. I didn't see any fights on the horizon for him, so maybe he thinks with the change up and everything, he can get one over on this guy, because Phil Rowe does have a lot more experience. He's got a lot more UFC fights than Paul Lebosnoyani. He's got more UFC fights, but he's got 8 UFC fights so far. Made his UFC debut back in 2021, coming off of Dana White's Contender Series as well. But losing to Gabe Green, Neil Magny, Jake Matthews, didn't have the best performance in his last 2 fights, even though he did win one of those. He's too inconsistent for me. And I feel like a young, hungry guy like Lebosnoyani, who's also a jiu-jitsu black belt, has got finishing potential on the feet. I think he'll be a little bit too much for Phil Rowe on short notice. I think he'll be able to leverage his grappling ability if he needs to. I think he'll have the better gas tank, better cardio too, having the full training camp. And I like his hands. I like his ability to do damage on the feet. So I'm gonna go with Lebosnoyani in this one. I think that I could see a submission finish, get into the ground, but I think more than likely, with it being his UFC debut, opponent change, I could see it kind of wearing on him. Maybe he plays it a little bit safer and gets this one done by decision. Thanks.